In the 17th century, Oyo was just another provincial state in the region we today call Nigeria. It was small, insignificant, and militarily weak. However, by the 18th century, Oyo had risen to become a regional powerhouse that dominated much of modern-day Nigeria, as well as parts of Benin and Togo. Its military was formidable, its economy was thriving, and its political system was highly sophisticated. So how did this seemingly insignificant state transform itself into such a powerful and advanced empire? And what was its government like? To answer this question, we will look at 5 elements that combine to make Oyo one of the most formidable states in pre-colonial Africa. The second reason for Oyo's success was their military innovations. Now, while many African states were creating massive armies with large infantry forces, Oyo understood the importance of mobility and versatility in warfare. They focused on creating an elite cavalry force that could quickly move across the battlefield, harassing the enemy and supporting infantry forces. Additionally, the Alaafin, or King of Oyo, held supreme military authority, which ensured that the army was loyal to the crown and not some local warlord. In fact, this power extended to all other aspects of governance. So how did the Alaafin become so powerful? Well, he wasn't elected and there was no parliament to make him accountable. So then how did they keep him in check? To understand this, let's take a look at the socio-political structure of the Oyo Empire. The third reason for Oyo's success was its socio-political structure. Despite the Alaafin's absolute powers, he was not a monarch in the traditional sense. He didn't rule unchallenged. Instead, he shared power with 2 advisory councils, the Oyo Mezi and the Ogboni Council. The Oyo Mezi, or Council of Ministers, was appointed by the Alaafin and was responsible for assisting him in the day-to-day running of the empire. Meanwhile, the Ogboni Council was an elite group of elders who acted as a kind of parliament, advising the Alaafin on important matters and representing the interests of the nobility. These 2 councils served as a check on the Alaafin's power, ensuring that he did not abuse his authority. Moreover, they provided continuity in governance, as they often played a significant role in the selection of the next Alaafin when the throne became vacant. In addition to these institutions, Oyo's political system was also characterized by a strong central government that effectively managed the vast territories under its control. The empire was divided into several provinces, each headed by a governor who was responsible for collecting taxes and maintaining law and order. Furthermore, Oyo's central government employed a professional bureaucracy to administer its affairs, which helped to ensure that policies were implemented efficiently and effectively. This strong central government was able to maintain stability and unity throughout the empire, even as it grew in size and complexity. And it wasn't just about keeping the Alaafin in check. The fourth reason for Oyo's success was that its government was deeply involved in economic activity. Unlike many other African states that left economic activity to individuals or private companies, Oyo saw the value of controlling trade networks within their borders. They imposed tariffs on goods entering and leaving the empire, which generated revenue for the central government and made Oyo incredibly wealthy. This wealth was then used to fund public works projects, such as building roads and infrastructure, as well as military campaigns that expanded the empire. By controlling trade and generating wealth, Oyo was able to build a strong economy that supported its growing population and funded its many endeavors. However, this wealth wasn't just used internally. Oyo also engaged in extensive diplomacy with other states. In the region, they formed alliances and traded extensively with neighboring kingdoms, which brought in even more wealth and resources to the empire. In fact, Oyo's diplomatic efforts were so successful that at its peak, the empire was essentially a hegemon in the region, with other states paying tribute to Oyo and recognizing its supremacy. This regional dominance gave Oyo a significant advantage over its rivals, as it was able to access resources that were not available to them. So to summarize, Oyo's success can be attributed to its innovative military tactics, its sophisticated socio-political structure, its robust economic system, and its extensive diplomatic network. But these elements alone don't tell the whole story. There was something else about Oyo that made it one of the most advanced political systems in pre-colonial Africa. And to understand that, we need to look at what made it so attractive to foreigners. And this brings us to our fifth point, Oyo's allure for non-Africans. During the height of the Atlantic slave trade, many Europeans and even some Africans from other regions looked to Oyo as a model of political organization and economic prosperity. In fact, Some European explorers described Oyo as the Rome of Africa, highlighting its advanced political system and impressive infrastructure. So what was it about Oyo that made it so appealing to outsiders? Well, one of the reasons was Oyo's relative openness to outsiders compared to many other African states. At the time, Oyo welcomed traders and diplomats from other regions, which exposed its people to new ideas and technologies. For example, Oyo was one of the first African states to adopt the use of firearms, which gave it a significant advantage over its rivals. Furthermore, Oyo's leaders were often well-educated and well-traveled, which made them more open to adopting new ideas and practices from other cultures. For example, Oyo's kings often studied Islamic texts and some even converted to Islam, which introduced new cultural and intellectual traditions to the kingdom. Additionally, Oyo's bustling cities, such as Ibadan and Oyo, served as centers of trade and cultural exchange, attracting people from all over Africa and Europe. These cities were home to a variety of ethnic groups and foreign residents, which created a melting pot of cultures and ideas. Finally, Oyo's relatively stable and secure environment compared to other regions of Africa contributed to its appeal to foreigners. While the empire was certainly not without its internal conflicts and power struggles, its sophisticated political system and strong central government helped to maintain order and stability, which made it a more attractive destination for traders and diplomats. Overall, Oyo's combination of political sophistication, economic prosperity, and cultural openness made it a shining example of African achievement during the pre-colonial period. But Oyo's greatness didn't last forever. The empire began to decline in the early 19th century due to a number of factors, including internal power struggles, the growing power of its rivals, and the increasing pressure from European colonizers. By the mid-19th century, Oyo had been completely conquered and incorporated into the colonial state of Nigeria. So what does Oyo's story tell us about the nature of African political thought? Well, for one thing, it challenges the common perception of pre-colonial Africa as politically fragmented and backward. Oyo's sophisticated political system demonstrates that African states were capable of developing complex and highly effective forms of government. In fact, Oyo's political institutions and practices were often more advanced than those of their European counterparts. For example, the Alaafin's absolute powers may seem undemocratic to modern sensibilities, but it was actually quite similar to the system of government in 18th century Europe, where monarchs held supreme authority. Additionally, the checks and balances built into Oyo's political system, such as the role of the advisory councils, were far more sophisticated than those found in many European states of the time. Moreover, Oyo's experience highlights the importance of context in understanding political systems. What may seem like a brutal dictatorship when viewed through a modern lens was actually an effective form of government in the context of 18th century Africa. Similarly, Oyo's sophisticated economic policies and infrastructure development demonstrate that African states were not just militaristic and authoritarian, but were also capable of great innovation and sophistication. In fact, Oyo's economic policies were far more progressive than those of many European states at the time, which often relied on feudalism and mercantilism. Finally, Oyo's story reminds us that African history is full of surprises. Despite its eventual conquest by European colonizers, Oyo's legacy as one of the most advanced political systems in pre-colonial Africa continues to inspire and amaze. Its sophisticated institutions and policies serve as a testament to the ingenuity and creativity of African peoples and challenge us to reconsider our understanding of pre-colonial Africa. Thank you for watching this episode. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.